Hello everybody, how you doing? I'm Gary and this is Physical Format Rock and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is another episode of Rewind Review where I talk about an album that's already been out, sometimes for a long time, especially in this case. I am talking about Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues Singers. Robert Johnson, of course, is known as one of the greatest bluesmen of all time. He also has a fair amount of mystery that surrounds him. Some of the things that we do know. Robert Johnson was born in 1911, passed away in 1938. He was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, born out of wedlock, never knew his father, got shipped around a bit when he was young. He was a widower twice while still in his 20s, but he also had an early interest in music. Now, of course, during this time period, that would not be encouraged too much by people around him, especially his stepfather at the time, who thought he should work on the farm like many other people around his age did, but he had other ideas. So he started to learn to play music. He was actually known more for being a harmonica player at first than he was a guitar player, although there are no recordings of him playing harmonica. Robert Johnson had two different sessions that he recorded. He recorded in San Antonio, Texas in 1936. He had 3 different days that he recorded on in the Gunter Hotel, I'm sorry. In a, they had 2 different rooms that they used to record. They had all the equipment in one room, the microphone in the other, where Robert Johnson recorded. And then he also recorded in June of 1937 in Dallas, Texas, at a warehouse where they recorded him. He recorded a total of 29 tracks of original songs that he had written. He did a couple of different takes on each song, and a handful of them he did 3 different takes. Of course, all the remaining takes, as far as alternate takes and originals, were put out in 1990 under the complete recordings of Robert Johnson. There were a few recordings that were lost over time, as you might suspect. So, the life of Robert Johnson. Now, he started out when he was playing the blues, becoming a bluesman. He befriended legendary Son House, a famous blues player in his own right, and Willie Brown. Now, those two would travel around and play at different juke joints and whatnot, and Robert Johnson would hang around with them. And he would start to play sometimes after Son House and Willie were done. And yes, by the way, that is the Willie Brown that he calls out in the song Crossroads. Now, when Son House and Willie were done, Robert would ask him, hey, can I get up there and play guitar for a little bit? And they'd say, all right. Well, according to Son House, Robert was so bad that people would, boo him, and they would say, get that kid out of here. He's no good. Don't let him play. Nobody wanted to hear it. So that was Robert Johnson at that time period. Now, this is where some of the stuff of legend comes about, because it wasn't, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 later, when Robert Johnson comes back, Son House sees him play, Willie sees him play, and they're like, holy cow. Now he's a fantastic guitar player and singer. It was such an incredible transformation that kind of started some of the legends of the deal with the devil that Robert Johnson supposedly made at the Crossroads. Now, of course, this is a thread that has been attached to other musicians over the years. But with Robert Johnson, it seemed to be one of the focal points. And the fact that how did he become so good in such a short amount of time? Well, of course, the legend was that he went to the crossroads, made a deal with the devil. The legend was if you would meet the devil at the crossroads at midnight, hand him your guitar, he would tune the guitar for you, play a song, and now you were an incredible guitar player. Of course, you had to sign that contract where you sold your soul to the devil. Now, Robert Johnson didn't exactly discourage these type of legends that went around during his time, because even the songs that he had, some of them had rather mysterious and demonic type titles in them. Now, he lived a life to where he was moderately popular. They recorded his songs. They would release them on 78s, where they would have one song on one side and one song on the other. Released a series of them that were moderately popular during his lifetime. Now, his death, like we say, he died in 1938, so he was only 27 years old when he died. He is the founding father of the infamous 27 Club. Many musicians after him seem to die at the same age. Now, Robert's death also kind of surrounded in mystery. We're not exactly sure how he died. He could have died of syphilis, which was very common in that time period. But the legend that goes down, and the legend is formed by a few different people, one of them being Sonny Boy Williamson, who you might know of, another famous bluesman of that time, known for being a great harmonica player, was supposedly at the bar where Robert Johnson was. Now, Robert Johnson had been apparently flirting with the wife of the bar owner and trying to make some time with her. Well, the bartender, the bar owner, gave Robert Johnson a drink, a glass of whiskey. Sonny Boy Williamson supposedly knocked it out of his hand and said, "You never take whiskey or free drinks from somebody not knowing what's going on." Well, Robert Johnson didn't take too kindly to that. He said, "Don't you ever knock a drink out of my hand again." So he ordered another one, and he got it, and supposedly he was poisoned. Legend has it that a couple days later, he died growling around on the floor and howling like a dog. Now, is that true? I don't know. Also, you have the thing of Robert McCormick, who was a blues researcher who supposedly interviewed the man that gave Robert Johnson the poison. This was many years later, and this guy, who wanted to remain anonymous, of course, confessed that he was the one that poisoned Robert Johnson. Well, so you had all that going about. The other thing that happened was John Hammond Sr. was putting together a big show at Carnegie Hall where he was going to showcase a lot of artists from the South and a lot of black artists. And Robert Johnson was one of the ones that he wanted at that. So he sent down Don Law, who was one of the recording engineers who had recorded Robert Johnson. "Hey, try to find this guy. I'm putting on this show and I want him showcased at it." Unfortunately, Robert Johnson had already passed away before he got that big break. Now, his records, of course, started to fade into oblivion. And for years, nobody had really heard of Robert Johnson. But then, around 1959, a couple of his songs have appeared on some blues compilations. And then, in 1961, Columbia House released this album, which has some of the best songs of the 29 songs that he had recorded in Texas back in 36 and 37. This, of course, was discovered by many of the young rock artists that we know today. He was a big influence on Eric Clapton, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Bob Dylan, John Hammond Jr., and many others. They discovered this album and fell in love with Robert Johnson. And why? Because this is a fantastic record. Robert Johnson was not only a fantastic guitar player, but had a great blues voice. Listen to some of these songs, the song titles that appeared on this album. Of course, you have Crossroads Blues, right? Redone by Cream. Terraplane Blues. Come On In My Kitchen. Walking Blues. Last Fair Deal Gone Down. 3220 Blues. Kind-Hearted Woman. If I Had Possession Over Judgment Day. Preaching Blues. When You Got a Good Friend. Rambling on My Mind. Stones in My Pathway. Traveling Riverside Blues. Led Zeppelin did that. Milk Cow Calf Blues. Aerosmith. Me and the Devil Blues. And Hellhound on My Trail. Of course, ending the album with Me and the Devil Blues and Hellhound on My Trail, along with the song Crossroads, had a lot to do with the legend of Robert Johnson and his deal with the devil. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I asked the Lord above for mercy, say, boy, if you please. I'm standing at the crossroads, I tried to flag a ride. Ain't nobody seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. He was also tormented. Early this morning, this is from Me and the Devil Blues. Early this morning when you knocked upon my door, I said, hello, Satan, I believe it's time to go. Me and the devil was walking side by side. I'm going to beat my woman until I get satisfied. And then from Hellhound on My Trail, I got to keep moving. I got to keep moving. Blues falling down like hail, blues falling down like hail. I can't keep no money. Got a hellhound on my trail. Hellhound on my trail. These songs led to the legend, but these were also great performances. His guitar playing is legendary now. There's the rumor that when he recorded, he faced the wall. Some people said that it was because he was shy. Other people said it was something that he did because he didn't want other musicians stealing his guitar techniques. If you listen to his guitar playing, many times it sounds like there's two guitars because he's playing the rhythm and then he adds these little leads that are going along with it. He does it in perfect timing. It's pretty amazing. As amazing as the guitar histrionics are, that Cream does on Crossroads, that really can't compare to Robert Johnson's version and his haunting vocals on that. He also had a great falsetto. Like if you listen to songs like Kind-Hearted Woman or If I Had Possession Over Judgment Day and listen to the falsetto that he throws in there. He could play slide, but he also had, songs like, Come On In My Kitchen, and of course, Love in Vain. Love in Vain was a famous song that he did that the Rolling Stones remade, did a fantastic version of, but Love in Vain is just shows that he could write in other styles and that he had songs that were not just necessarily these, badass kind of songs, but very heartbroken type songs. But like I say, everything on this album, I think, is so fantastic, especially considering it was done in 1936 and 1937. This was, is, and will always be one of my favorite blues records of all time. And if by chance you haven't heard this, I highly recommend that you look it up. Now, I realize it won't be for everybody. A lot of people are a little more single-minded in music and not open for older music or something like that. But if you have any interest whatsoever, I highly recommend looking up what started the legend. Robert Johnson, king of the Delta Blues singers. I'm Gary. This is Physical Format Rock and Roll. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, my friend, I will see you down at the crossroads.